The dream that became a nightmare. The year is 1587. You stand on the deck of the Lion, a 120-ton flyboat pitching through gray Atlantic swells, salt crusting your beard, every timber groaning like it's begging to turn back. Below deck, 90 men, 17 women, and 9 boys clutch their sea chests and their prayers. Among them is a pregnant woman, Eleanor Dare, stroking her belly while her husband, Ananias, keeps watch at the rail. They are not soldiers, they are families. Potters, carpenters, a cooper, an apothecary. People who sold everything they owned for one promise, whispered by a charismatic, one-legged visionary named Sir Walter Raleigh. A new world, a city of Raleigh. Land, freedom from religious persecution. A Protestant Eden far from the Catholic shadow of Spain. They believe it. God, how they believe it. And leading them is not a hardened admiral, but an artist governor, John White, mapmaker, painter of watercolors, a gentle man who sketches flowers while others sharpen swords. He has been to Roanoke Island before, 2 years earlier, with Sir Richard Grenville's expedition. He remembers the wide sound, the tall grasses, the Secatan villagers who brought fish, and smiled cautiously. He remembers thinking, this could work. Now, in July 1587, the Lion and her consorts drop anchor off Hatteras Island. The heat is a living thing, thick and wet. Mosquitoes rise in black clouds. The plan is simple. Refresh at the old fort on Roanoke Island, then sail 50 miles north to the richer shores of the Chesapeake, where the soil is deep and the bays are safe. But the plan dies the moment Simon Fernandes steps forward. Fernandes is the Portuguese pilot major, a dark-eyed man who answers only to himself and to the profit margins of his investors. He has no interest in babysitting colonists. His ships are leaking, his crews are sick, and hurricane season is breathing down his neck. Unload, he snaps. Here, Roanoke. Now. White protests. The Chesapeake was the agreement. Fernandes laughs. Take it up with the ocean, Governor. So the families are dumped like cargo onto the same narrow island where Grenville's men once burned a native village for a stolen silver cup. The same island where the water turns brackish in summer. The same island where 15 soldiers were left behind the year before and never heard from again. On August 18, 1587, 9 days after arrival, Eleanor Dare gives birth in a thatched hut while thunder rolls overhead. Virginia Dare, the first English child born on American soil. John White cradles his granddaughter, her tiny fist around his finger, and swears he will protect this fragile new world. But already the cracks are showing. Food stores are low. The local Secatan, once friendly, keep their distance. And Fernandes is sailing away, taking most of the boats with him. White begs to go back to England for supplies and more settlers. The colonists beg him not to leave. He promises, 1 year, maybe less. I will return by spring. As the ships disappear over the horizon, 117 souls watch from the shore. They do not know that war has just broken out between England and Spain. They do not know the Spanish Armada is coming. They do not know that every English ship will soon be fighting for survival. And that John White will not see Roanoke again for 3 impossible years. You can feel it, can't you? The dread settling, like damp rot in the floorboards. They are alone now, truly alone. And something out there in the forests is already watching. The long hunger, minus 1588, the first winter without John White, is crueler than any Englishman imagined. You are inside the rough palisade now. Late February, 1588. Wind screams through the cracks in the log walls like a living thing trying to get in. The fire is down to embers. The last handful of English peas was eaten weeks ago. Children whimper in the dark. Mothers hush them with empty promises. Outside, the ground is iron hard. Corn won't grow until April lith. They still have seed corn in April. The Seccaton villages are silent. No one comes to trade. Some of the men remember the old grudge. How Grenville burned Aquascogoke over a missing cup. Others remember something worse. George Howe, one of the assistants, found floating face down in the shallows last summer, his skull split by 16 arrow wounds, body picked over by crabs. The message was clear: you are not welcome here anymore. Governor White's second-in-command, Ananias Dare, tries to keep order. He organizes hunting parties, but the deer have learned to vanish when white men come with arquebuses. They bring back mostly ducks and bitterness. By spring, the colony is eating its leather jerkins boiled with sassafras roots. Men's eyes sink into their sockets. Women's courses stop. And still the natives watch from the tree line, silent, patient, waiting. Then comes the night no one speaks of later. 7 men desperate, half-mad, slip out under moonlight to raid a mainland village for corn. They never return. Days later, a single survivor staggers back, naked, arrow shafts broken off in his flesh. He dies, raving about shadows that moved like smoke, about warriors who came out of the ground itself. After that, no one leaves the palisade alone. But hunger has its own logic. In May 1588, a council is held inside the largest house. The air is thick with sweat and fear. Roger Bailey, the assistant governor, stands on a crate and speaks the unspeakable. We cannot stay here. The soil is sand. The wells turn salt. The Indians want us gone or dead. Ananias Dare argues for holding out, for White's return. Voices rise. Someone throws a pewter cup. In the end, they vote. They will abandon Roanoke Island. Not all at once, too dangerous, but in small groups, quietly, before the next winter kills them. Some will try north toward the Chesapeake, following the original plan. Others will risk the shorter crossing south to the island the natives call Croatoan, where the Hatteras people have always been friendlier, where deer still come to the beaches, where English iron and cloth might still buy mercy. They begin carving the word in secret, practicing the letters so every man, woman, and child will know what it means when the time comes. A signal, a destination, a last desperate hope. And they agree on one more thing. If the worst happens, if they are attacked, if they must flee in terror, they will carve a second sign. A Maltese cross, the prearranged symbol of distress. No cross means no massacre. No cross means we left by choice. By the summer of 1589, the fort is already falling into ruin. Roofs sag. Gardens go wild with weeds. One by one, small boats slip away across the Sound at night. Families carry everything they can. A Bible, a cooking pot. The cradle. Virginia Dare was born and they vanish into the vast green wilderness like smoke. The last group leaves in early 1590, 15 souls, maybe 20. They nail a final message where John White will be sure to see it. Not on some hidden tree deep in the forest. Right on the main palisade post, chest high, impossible to miss. Croatoan, and beneath it no cross. Because this was not defeat. This was survival. Or so they believed. But across the ocean, John White is finally coming. And what he is about to find will shatter him, and birth one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. The return, August 18, 1590. The sun is barely up when the longboat grinds ashore again. John White is first over the side, 60 years old. Legs trembling from 3 years of begging, borrowing, and battling storms. Behind him, the crew of the privateer Moonlight hang back, muskets half-cocked, eyes darting to the tree line. They have seen Spanish galleons burn. They have never seen silence this complete. White does not wait. He runs. Boots slap wet sand, then soft earth, then the old path choked with vines. His breath comes in ragged gasps. Eleanor, Virginia. He bursts into the clearing where the village once stood. Nothing moves. The palisade is a skeleton of leaning posts. Roofs have collapsed inward like broken ribs. A child's wooden doll lies half buried, one button eye staring at the sky. White staggers from house to house, kicking in doors that hang by leather hinges. Empty. Every hearth cold. Every chest pried open and emptied. Not looted in rage. Taken with care, someone packed to leave forever. Then, he sees it. The word is carved deep, letters 3 inches high. The cuts still pale against the darkened wood. Croatoan white touches the grooves as if they are braille. No cross. No distress symbol. His knees buckle. Relief and terror collide in his chest like opposing waves. The sailors fan out, calling. One finds the second carving, lower on another post, almost hidden by creeping ivy. Crow just the first 3 letters, as though the carver was interrupted or simply ran out of strength. But the message is the same. White's mind races. Croatoan is only 50 miles south, an easy sail. The Hatteras people there were always friendly. Manteo, their own interpreter, was born on that island. They must have gone for help. They must be alive. But the Moonlight's captain has other ideas. A storm is brewing in the northeast. Black clouds already swallow the horizon. The privateers mutter about Spanish patrols, about prize money waiting in the Caribbean. White begs for one day, just one day to sail south. They give him hours. They fire a cannon to signal any survivors. The boom rolls across the empty sound. No answer. They light a bonfire on the highest dune. Smoke climbs into the bruised sky. No columns rise in reply. Night falls too fast. The wind turns savage. Ropes scream against masts as the ships drag their anchors. White stands at the rail, screaming his granddaughter's name into the gale until his voice is raw. The captain drags him below. The Moonlight and her consort cut cables and run before the hurricane. White watches Roanoke Island disappear behind curtains of rain. The carvings burn behind his eyes. Croatoan. Crow. He tells himself they are safe. He tells himself he will come back with a proper fleet next spring. But England is bleeding from the Armada War. Investors are ruined. Raleigh is fighting for his own neck at court. White will beg for ships again and again, and every door will slam in his face. He will die in Ireland in 1593. Still clutching the tiny baby shoes Virginia never grew into, still whispering one word like a prayer. Croatoan. And no Englishman will set foot on that southern island for another 17 years. When they finally do, the truth will be stranger and far darker than anyone dared imagine. The silence that swallowed them, minus 1607, and beyond, April 1607, 17 years after John Whit turned away in the storm. Captain John Smith stands on the deck of the Susan Constant, staring south through a spyglass. Jamestown is already a fevered hell behind him, half the men dead. The rest gnawing boot leather, but rumors drift up the coast like woods. There are English people living among the Indians far to the south. People with gray eyes. People who speak strange prayers. People who answer to names like Dare. Smith dispatches an expedition. 2 weeks later, a shallop noses into the shallow waters of Croatoan Island, modern-day Terrace. The men step ashore, expecting a tearful reunion. English voices, maybe even a church bell. They find a thriving village of Hatteras Indians. Thatched longhouses, canoes drawn up on the beach, children laughing, but no pale skin, no European clothes, no crosses. The chief, a tall man wearing a copper gorget that glints like old English coin, greets them in broken Algonquian. Yes, he says through gestures and the few words Manteo taught him long ago, English people came here. Many winters passed. They came hungry. We fed them. They came afraid. We sheltered them. They married our daughters. They became us. The sailors demand proof. The chief smiles and claps his hands. For men and women are brought forward. Their hair is black, their skin sun-browned, but their eyes, one has eyes the color of a North Sea storm. Another has a straight English nose. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, stares at the bearded strangers and whispers a word none of them expect. Grandfather. The sailors feel the hairs rise on their necks. They ask about books, about Bibles, about the settlement. The chief leads them to a small wooden chest buried beneath the council house floor. Inside, water-rotted pages of a prayer book, a brass compass, and a child's silver christening spoon engraved with the single initial D for Dare. But when the English demand to take these people back to Jamestown to rescue them, the Hatteras warriors close ranks, spears lower, faces harden. These are not lost colonists anymore. These are our kin. This is our blood. The expedition leaves empty-handed, the taste of something ancient and irreversible in their mouths. Years roll on. More reports trickle north. 1630s, Powhatan tells English traders that some of his own tributary tribes have people with yellow hair, who build round English houses deep in the swamps. 1640s. Explorers in the Carolina interior hear tales of a tribe that fights with iron-tipped arrows and prays to a book they keep wrapped in deerskin. 1701. John Lawson, surveyor, visits the Hatteras again. He writes in his journal, several of their ancestors were white people. They value themselves extremely for their affinity to the English, and are ready to do them all manner of good offices. He notes that many can still recite the Lord's Prayer in 16th century English. And then, slowly, the trail cools. Disease. War. The relentless churn of colonial expansion. By the time anyone thinks to look seriously, the people who might have carried the memory are gone. The last whisper comes in 1888. Lumbee elders in Robeson County, North Carolina, people who have always looked different, spoken differently, carried English surnames like Dare, Cooper, and Lowry, tell a visiting anthropologist an old story their grandmothers sang. We came from an island where the sun rose red. We carried a baby named Virginia. We crossed the water when the corn would not grow. The Croatoan took us in. We became the people of the dawn. And we never went back. They show him a tattered coat of mail, rusted, solid, handed down for generations. They show him a tiny silver spoon, dented and black with age, still bearing that single letter D. The mystery never dies. It simply sinks into the soil of a new nation, becoming ghost stories told around campfires. Becoming the restless wind over the dunes of Roanoke, becoming the gray eyes you sometimes still see in the faces of the Lumbee, the Hatteras, the Corey descendants who walk the Outer Banks today. Were they massacred? No bodies, no crosses. Were they lost? No. They chose the only door left open to them. They walked south into the arms of strangers who became family. They laid down their English names like heavy armor. They let the forest close behind them. And in doing so, they did the one thing no European colony had ever managed before. They survived. Not as English men and women, but as something new. The first Americans, perhaps. In the truest sense of the word. The colony was never lost. It simply stopped being a colony. And somewhere out there, if you stand very still on a quiet evening at Hatteras, you can almost hear it on the wind. The faint echo of a lullaby sung in 2 languages, to a little girl who would never again be called Virginia Dare, because she had already become someone else. End.